Welcome to the Further Light Podcast, presented by Wisconsin Freemasonry, helping you accomplish your Masonic goals through education and more light. And now, I present to you, Brother Chris Ludke.
Listeners, scholars, brothers, this is Brother Chris Lidke, and today I want to explore Silas Shepherd Lodge of Research, one of the hidden mysteries of Freemasonry in the state of Wisconsin. To join me in this exploration of Silas Shepherd, who they are, what they do, and why they have such fun in their meetings, I am joined by Worshipful Brother Jim McQuiggan. Jim, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, Jim McQuiggan, Worshipful Master, Silas Shepherd.
And I am joined by Worshipful Brother John Schrader.
Hey, this is John Schrader, past master, Silas Shepherd Lodge as well.
And Worshipful Brother Napoleon Sneed Janzak.
Hey, greetings. Napoleon Sneed Janzak here, also a past master of Silas Shepherd.
And I am the current senior warden of Silas Shepherd, even though I have yet to go to an installation for any office in the lodge. Leaving that aside, so brothers, what is Silas Shepherd?
Well, all right, I'll take this one. All right, Silas Shepherd, Wisconsin's premier lodge of research, is a traveling lodge with like-minded brothers and individuals that enjoy Masonic education, research, and teaching. It's more about the fellowship, of course, but along with that fellowship, we have individuals in the lodge that just really enjoy Masonic history, current events, and various other Masonic topics and things surrounding Masonry in general.
It's a lot of fun to go out and travel to a lot of different lodges, whether it is a nearby lodge or a faraway lodge. We have a lot of very well-traveled brothers. When I say well-traveled, that is domestically, sometimes internationally. It's brothers who want to get to know other brothers and how we do things differently in different jurisdictions and different places. And sometimes that travel is physical, and sometimes that travel is digital. So we have actually communicated and had Masonic discourse with brothers from all over the world on a format which is Zoom, which became really a way to kind of make the world a smaller place when the pandemic came on. And it's been a great experience, and we've connected to brothers. I've connected to brothers all over the world, and I know all of you, the rest of you, have as well. It's exciting, and I've learned so much in these last couple of years. I would have never in a million years thought that the pandemic would have actually been a benefit in Masonry in certain ways, but man, it's been an incredible ride.
And are you referring to the 9 o'clock toast or Silas Shepherd itself?
Well, I mean, Silas Shepherd has inspired. I think it's inspired all of us to take those 9 o'clock toast discussions and take them to another level. The discourse that the 9 o'clock toast has created has been something that we've continued with Silas Shepherd. We've had some incredible discussions in the Silas Shepherd Lodge of Research, and people have been excited and inspired, and it's just a lot of fun.
And John, why'd you join Silas Shepherd?
So I joined Silas Shepherd just a couple of years ago, mainly because I was looking for a group of like-minded individuals and people that have a um, a passion for history and research. And that's really what Silas Shepherd does, is that it inspires its members to go out and become more knowledgeable on Masonic topics of all different, in all different ways. So I joined because I have a background in history. I teach history at the high school level. I'm currently a master's student or a graduate student in history, and Silas Shepherd has given me quite a bit of not only inspiration but also connections in terms of being able to find information for my own research and connecting me with people that may be able to assist me with that. At least one of our brothers here, brother Chris, has done a little proofreading for me on occasion, which is good because I tend to be a little bit interesting in my style of presentation. I tend to get a little bit snarky once in a while in how I write, so he's been able to bring me down to the level and keep me from going a little bit overboard in what I'm saying or what I'm writing when I'm doing my work. So,
John, I don't think any of us have ever known you to be a sarcastic type. I've never
well, but really, onto your original question of what Silas Shepherd is. Silas Shepherd is, I think, a little bit more than just a traditional lodge of research. In some cases, you might see a traditional lodge of research being very focused on one topic or another. You might see brothers being very focused on one topic or another, or the type of research that they do, their standards being a little bit different than what we have. We are a very open-ended lodge when it comes down to that. Some of our writing is very op-ed style, which is essentially people being able to take ideas from Masonry, put their own spin on it, and throw it out there to see what other people think about it. And that is our meetings, as open as the discussion that we have is very, very, it's a very important place to be able to share those types of things, because not all Masons are exactly like as cookie cutter Masons, I guess. And it's good to be able to get the ideas that may not always see the light into the light.
Silas Shepherd piques our interest. It gets us excited. It brings us down into some wormholes or some rabbit holes that I don't think that many of us would otherwise have explored. And it gets us to think about things differently. That is what I love about Silas Shepherd. And I don't think I ever would have come to Silas Shepherd had my Masonic mentor not kind of dragged me over and said, "Hey, come on over, check this out. This would be right up your alley." All of us love the historical aspect. All of us love the rhetorical nature of a great paper and a great discussion, and whether we can connect that into esoterics or into, as Brother John was saying, history, it just makes it all fun.
One of the things I would add to that also is that it's a very diverse group of individuals at Silas. There's not all scholars and not all historians, etc. You have General Masons that are just there for the fellowship and to listen, learn, and observe all the things that are happening in Masonry. And being that we are a traveling lodge, we have members all over the state that contribute. Silas originally started as a premier research lodge. However, as time went on, they started to get more of the op-ed style and personal opinions of in their travels wherever they would take the lodge, which I think even recently this last year, one of the charter members had sent in a personal piece about his beginnings in Masonry. And he admittedly said to me that this was not going to be a typical research paper, but it would be a personal opinion on what his life was like as a Mason coming into Masonry. So Silas has all kinds, and I think that's what excites all of us to, in being members of Silas.
I would say the discourse really sets Silas apart from other lodges because you come in and the conversations can go pretty much anywhere. We've got the papers that are presented, etc., but it's that conversation that you don't get in a lot of lodges, because even if they're doing Masonic education, it's usually 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and there's that longer ability to really tease out ideas and have fun with them. And that might be a big reason why people, come into the meetings and just watch, just observe what's going on. It's really a good time. I have to say it energizes me. But then I teach art history and history. I'm a professional nerd. So that kind of works in my case.
I love the professional nerd comparison because in many ways, Silas Shepherd really caters to our inner nerd. I happen to have also have been a history major in college, and every time that I travel somewhere or go somewhere, I'm starting to look, okay, would there be a Masonic connotation here, or would there be a connection to the original stonemasons guild there? And it takes us down some really cool rabbit holes even today. And I'm on vacation today. I'm looking at buildings and thinking, yeah, the old stonemasons had some influence there. It was very cool.
Can I just point out that of the three history people here, the one who's the most successful is the roofer? I'm just saying.
I have to say, brothers, I have thoroughly enjoyed the connections and the brotherly love that you've shared with me. I really feel that we built a very tight brotherhood here at Silas, and I cannot in any verbally way express my appreciation for you. So thank you.
So
okay, I just killed the conversation. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, that's fine. It's hard to follow that up, Jim.
Leave it to the master. That's right.
Yeah. So what is it that we do at our, if this is a new brother listening, how do we describe what we do as Silas Shepherd?
So what does the Research Lodge do? We have lots of informal discussions, as we previously talked about, presentations and research, etc. We travel everywhere, not only as a lodge, but as individuals. We offer our services in conjunction with the Grand Lodge Education Committee, oftentimes being asked to do presentations on various topics. Typically, you're surrounding the Wisconsin area, but not limited to that. I think in the last year, I can vouch for myself and Jim, have been to over 12 lodges in 1 year. Just spreading Masonic education and the publications that Silas Shepherd puts out. We just like any other lodge. I mean, we oftentimes we laugh about lodge meetings. Let's make them an hour and get out of here. But it's quite the opposite at Silas. It's let's get to Silas, and oftentimes we're there for 3 hours. Because
this is not a great sales pitch, Napoleon.
No, it's a beautiful sales pitch in this way. We want to be there for those 3 hours. In Masonry, we're not in Silas. We don't deal with how many bills we have to pay, or as my brother Chris here would say, how many lawnmowers we need to sell or push. It's all about that fellowship and discussions, kind of like what we're doing right now, or even with the 9 o'clock toast. We have robust discussions on various topics and events of the current day, and oftentimes things that we see that may be needing improvement, or we could do without, or something we could do better. That's one of the things that Silas has to offer. I always like to joke and say that once you fill out that petition to become a plural member at Silas, you automatically gain 30% knowledge just by joining. The other 70%, or I would say the other 20%, comes from purchasing our publications, Pharos. And then the other 50% is your participation in just gaining that knowledge by being present. It starts there. You get the petition, you come in, you meet a bunch of guys. And of course we have the coffee and carbs before each meeting. And we meet quarterly. So it's not a big dent in your schedule. And it's on Saturday mornings. So there's a lot to do there, a lot to see, and it doesn't take much out of your day. But you have a lot to gain from it.
So that's the sales pitch. How about the reality, Jonathan?
So, all right. So the reality, how I would describe. So, brand new member, never been to a meeting before. When you walk in the door, we meet at 9:00 in the morning. Typically, we start with coffee and carbs at that time. A lot of social hour going on at that point, and then at 10:00 ish, or as our former secretary Frank would say, 10:00 standard Masonic time. The gavel will drop on a standard opening. So in Wisconsin here, we have to open in the Master Mason degree. So we'll have an opening. We will go through a bit of business. The lodge does have to operate in some manner. And then we will go informal and present papers and have discussion. Typical meeting this last year or so is that discussion has gone on for anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour and a half, depending on how much or how many papers we would have or how much discussion we have. It also depends on where we're at. We took a bit of a walk up into the Northwoods of Wisconsin this year, and that meeting went on for a good chunk of the morning, because we had brothers that showed up there that have never been to a meeting, and a majority of all the people in the room had not experienced Silas before. So
if I may, Jonathan,
yeah,
I just want to say that was a streak of frigging brilliance that you came up with there. When you brought us up to, I would not have thought about bringing Silas up north to, in that case, Merrill, Wisconsin. But you had like 25, 30 guys there. It just screamed at me, man, there is a Masonic hunger here. There's a hunger for Masonic education in this neck of the woods, and we can do more. We don't have to be a lodge in one specific part of the state. We can go out and satiate that hunger. We can get people excited. We can get people to want to do more. We can get people to say, wow, I didn't even realize I can do that, and then they go off and do their own rabbit holes. It was inspiring. So thank you. And if you're wondering why this year, which is the year that you guys have mistakenly put me in charge, it's because of what you did, John. So thank you very much. I'm really looking forward to heading up to Watoma this spring. We're gonna go back up to the Northwoods in Rhinelander in mid-June, and then we're going to head over to La Crosse for our fall meeting. So we'll see what happens there, and the exploration is going to be fantastic. Okay, sorry. Back to John.
Generally, the only thing that I have to add after what I was saying is that we do, obviously, if we're informal with a regular lodge meeting, we do have to close. So generally speaking, if you're a brand new person coming to your first Silas meeting, gavel drops sometime around 10:00. I have seen Silas meetings go on past noon easily, but not much past that normally. Depending on where we are, a group of people might get together and go out for lunch afterwards. But that's generally what you would get with a Silas meeting. And as our brothers have said here, there's a number of us that are fairly well traveled, some more than others. And so even when we had meetings that are, even a couple of 100 miles away from where we might live, generally many of these brothers will make that trip to be able to open and close and have that discussion in lodge. So that is essentially what you would find if you went to one of our meetings. And you would have, of course, the honor and privilege of having to put up with what you are hearing here today. So
it makes it fun, it makes it interesting. So let's talk about the research, the papers that are presented. What sort of level are they written at? What are the expectations? Why does John kick some of them out? I'm curious.
Never kicked one out. No, I'll start that one up. Generally, they are of all different levels. So we have some members who are quite experienced in terms of more formal writing, historical research style writing, and then we have others that would prefer to dabble in the op-ed area. And they can be short, they can be long. I did a kind of an abstract of a paper that I put together that was well over the 25-page mark. However, most of them would sit around, 2, 3, 5 pages, somewhere in there. But it is of all different levels. I don't know if anybody wants to add on to that in terms of
footnotes, citations, bibliographies.
Yes. So So there are master's level thesis, PhD dissertations, and regular essays. You have all kinds. You have poetry, you have written prose, and even haikus in some instances. And it's not all Masonic. I mean, there is Masonic basis for it, but there's just a wide variety of artistry there, and general discussion as well. I mean, even in their writing styles, as John was basically saying, it's very diverse, and it shows. Oftentimes there are individuals that I get the question all the time as I'm now sitting secretary is, well, what's the criteria? And, we'll do our best to edit for brothers that are struggling with their writing styles and things like that. There's many people that just enjoy reading it and, making corrections. And a lot of times these papers will go back and forth. We had a paper roughly about 6 months ago or so, that dealt with wine, the different styles of wine and grapes, etc. And we brought a little bit of Masonic ties into it, but it was mostly about the wine, and it was just a great discussion that brothers had. So you have all levels. There's no strict criteria other than we'd like a 12-point font, New Times or something similar, and clear, concise, and we'll work with you through that, particularly if you're not a normal, it's not normal for you to write, but you want to be involved. We'll always help you with that.
And to give the listeners some ideas of what we've heard, I mean, we've had some opinion pieces based on religion. Ethan Stark's piece comes to mind. Mm-hmm. Tony Buja. I'm butchering his name.
Budai.
He was
Tony Budai.
Budai.
Yeah. Yep.
And he was talking about the pillars. We've had conversation about everything from honesty to, where Masonry is going. So these are all over the place. The topics are fantastic. And then does someone want to touch on what happens after the paper is presented?
You mean the lunch or?
No, not that far. Wow, we're just jumping right ahead to food, like Masons always do.
It's what connects all of us.
Yeah.
So
I'm getting at the discussion.
oftentimes a paper is presented, it's read in, depending on the length, or we'll summarize it if it's lengthy, of course. And then what happens after that is we discuss the paper, what we liked about it, if there's any questions with regard to what the author was trying to portray with his paper, and kind of work on it and talk about where it could go, where it's been, where it might be at that moment, what our interpretations are, if we're getting it right, if it's historically accurate, if it's, a variety of things. We're kind of checks and balances kind of place, particularly when you have historians in the room. We tend to look for that stuff, but it's definitely a robust discussion on what was written and what could be maybe amended or added to it. I think the value is the fact that we discuss them. There's always something more that comes out of it. So the paper is a living document at all times. Even after we publish it, we'll go back to this stuff and reference it and use it in our lodges. I'm reminded of some of the stuff that was in the original books. Mysterium Masonica was a poem written by one of the brothers, and it goes real deep into the tradition of Silas Shepherd himself, who was actually a prolific writer and poet. And so, we kind of stuck to that as throughout the history of Silas Shepherd, beginning in 1984, these guys had followed that Silas Shepherd tradition of, writing formally and informally, if that makes sense. So the discussion is
about Silas.
Yeah, go ahead.
The cool thing about the cool thing about the Silas Shepherd discussions are that we can go out and we can have an idea, and we've written a paper, and we get together and we have that discussion, and then we're there to support each other. And sometimes we might get it wrong, or we may have not explored something that would have made a discussion even richer. And that would be an opportunity then for the author of that paper maybe to take those little nuggets and drop that into the paper and do a little editing before we publish it.
And I guess we can also, since a couple of us have referenced publishing all the way or already, just so for our listeners that don't know much about it, we have a publication called Pharos, which comes out now every 2 years. We have about, 11 volumes?
We have 9 volumes with a 10th in production at the moment.
All right. So, and though that collection is normally put together by the master that year, and that collection will usually be around a Masonic topic. So we've had topics about initiates, we've had topics about esoterica, etc. But we pick our papers that revolve around that topic. I know Brother Napoleon and myself, we both gave challenges to writers during our year, or scholars during our years, to talk about certain topics. So mine was justice last year, and prior to that was Brother Napoleon with initiation, or what brought you into Masonry. And so that is one of our publications. And then another one would be our transactions. So every year we put out a book of transactions, which is a book of not only the minutes of our meetings, but all of the papers that were presented that year. And so we get them into an actual book format or publishable format. So when we're referencing publication, that's what we're doing. And we use the Pharos as our major source of fundraising for the lodge. We are not a huge lodge in terms of money on hand type of thing. This is more of a It's a research lodge. We're much more focused on other things as opposed to taking in a bunch of money and buying lawnmowers, as we would say. So.
And what percentage of people actually present papers, of the membership of Silas Shepherd? Is it like a requirement most of them will publish? Is it quite small? What would you say?
10 to 20%.
That's accurate. Yeah.
Yeah. We have a membership just over 100 right now. I would say that we have a good 10, 15 people or so that are contributing regularly, and papers regularly. And that goes in waves, obviously, as well. We've had many more in the last 2 or 3 years. Prior to that, we were kind of on a lull. Prior to COVID, or prior to the pandemic, we did not have a lot of papers being brought into meetings, but since then we have many more.
And for the listener, even as one of the officers of Silas Shepherd, I have never offered a paper at Silas Shepherd. I am one of the masses that sits quietly on the sideline, keeping my opinions generally to myself.
Yeah, I would say that's not quite accurate there, but no, you bring in good insight, brother, and that's exactly. Again, you're displaying exactly what happens at Silas. You may not have presented a paper, but you offer a lot of great insight into the papers that are presented.
Mm-hmm. And we have brothers who are everybody brings something to the table. I know that you're a little humble about this, Brother Chris, but you are a ritualist. I believe you now have your ritual card in is it both the FC and the EA?
FC and MM.
Oh, okay. Wow. That and I've seen your work, your ritual work. It is top notch. There's a part that you play that I've never seen anybody do anywhere near as good as you do. So we have it. So my point there is to say we have people who bring a diverse set of skills to the table.
And why would people, I mean, we kind of covered why people join. I guess I'll give you guys a sales pitch opportunity. How do people join? How do they get money into Napoleon's hands, or how do they join Silas? What are the requirements? What should they know?
So they have to be a Master Mason in good standing first, because Silas only accepts plural memberships in the Master Mason degree. We only work in the Master Mason degree. We do not do degree work. However, we do have many proficiency guys at Silas. But basically, get your Master Mason get your Master Mason degree. Either go to silasshepherd.org and leave us a message there asking about membership, or contact us through the Grand Lodge or OLP, etc. Or wisconsinmasons.org. You can go there and look up the lodge, find us there, get us a message, and we respond. I respond fairly quickly. If I see something in the inbox, I kind of get on it right away. So we shoot you a petition. It typically gets voted on the day of the next meeting, and it's all roses from there.
And brothers from other jurisdictions are also welcome to come to our meetings. It's one of the coolest things that has sprung from Silas Shepherd, I think, is this discussion about, well, how does it happen here? How does it happen in this other jurisdiction? Whether it has to do with how we might do something in ritual, or how writings get published in other jurisdictions. Sometimes it's a discussion as the code, and sometimes it's about something that's about, it could be about regalia. You never know. We don't have a whole lot of limitations.
As far as membership goes, my brother Napoleon already brought this up, but Wisconsin has a fairly easy form for plural membership. So all you have to do is figure a way to get a hold of that plural membership form. So again, contact the lodge for that. Our lodge is allowed because of our quarterly meeting status that, as Brother Napoleon said, once we get a petition in, we will vote on it at the next meeting. So all petitions from the prior meeting to the one that we're referring to. So we'll have a meeting in March. Any petitions that came in from our last meeting until then will get voted on at that meeting. And again, like Brother Jim said, we do accept memberships from any jurisdiction that it has fraternal relations with the Grand Lodge of Wisconsin. So as long as you are a member in good standing of a Grand Lodge that is in good standing with the Grand Lodge of Wisconsin, you are good to go.
There are some limits to Silas Shepherd, though. I hear we can't actually steal the traveling gavel, for example.
Well, that depends on who you talk to.
That's definitely a jurisdictional thing. So it's
yes.
maybe we'll find a way to change that in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah. For those who are listening, we have tried.
We tried to steal two different ones. It's just a thing.
And there are pictures to prove. Yes.
And where is the next meeting and when, Brother McQuiggan?
The next meeting is going to be the second the second Saturday in March. It will be at Watoma Lodge in Watoma, Wisconsin. We will have carbs and coffee at 9:00, and once we're fully caffeinated up and we're all ready to have a lively discussion at 10:00, we'll drop the gavel. We'll have a short business meeting, and typically I tend to be a bit of a workhorse in keeping things moving along. So I would suspect our business meeting will probably be about a half hour, and then we'll dive into whatever papers we have. My focus this year is primarily digital masonry. We have right now we're having a discussion on Zoom, but that can then be transferred over to a podcast. And Brother Chris and Brother Napoleon, you two guys do a great job on the Further Light podcast. But I do a fair amount of social media stuff myself, and I think that the craft is making some major changes in adapting to masonry to bring it up to more modern speed. So at 10:00 we'll drop the gavel. Probably at about 10:20, 10:30, it would be my goal to be done with any of our business stuff, and then we dive right into the papers. My goal is to have 3 papers at any given meeting. I'm always going to have one in my pocket. If the if the members already have 3, then great. I probably won't present a 4th, but if there's not 3 that are already ready, I'm going to have one ready. I always do, because I'm such a brief guy who never has anything to say. Kind of diminutive.
Is there anything else that anyone wants to say about Silas Shepherd or their mission or what they do or why John is so quiet today?
I'm saving up all of my all the talking that I have to do for the next week in school. But no, my last kind of sales pitch is that, obviously all the people that are on this discussion are passionate about Silas Shepherd as a lodge. We wouldn't be sitting here talking about it if we weren't. But anyone that is interested, if you are even slightly interested in any of the stuff that we talk about, make the drive, take a trip and stop in at a meeting. It would be, I think that you'll find value in it. And it's just like any other lodge. If you go there and that's not for you, then it's not for you. But there's no harm in making the trip and figuring out whether or not this is something that you would be, interested in partaking in. So
it opens doors and uncovers rabbit holes. And the beautiful thing about Silas Shepherd is that it is a safe place to have a great Masonic discussion. And once you attend a Silas Shepherd meeting, you're like, it changes the way that you think about things. You're like, wow, I never would have made those connections. And once you make those little connections, each one can then build upon the next and upon the next. Kind of like building, like a builder builds a building. You have to have a foundation. If you have a solid foundation, then all of a sudden you put up your walls. Maybe you put in your I'm a tradesman, so maybe you put in your studs, your insulation, how are you going to put together your roof? How strong are you going to make your own personal Masonic edifice? And I think that you can do some really cool stuff and build your own knowledge base and that's going to inspire you to go off and do other cool things in Masonry. Whether you are a person who's inspired by the historical elements of Masonry, whether you're inspired by the esoterics, or whether you're inspired by a ritual, or maybe just wine.
I would just say that be sure to check out silasshepard.org. All the information about Silas is there. You can also purchase our publications there, as well as see a featured paper or Masonic education from every month. There's a new one posted. You can become a member. We're going to be having more exclusive stuff. If you are a Master Mason in good standing and you wish to become a member, definitely go to silasshepard.org and check that out. And we'll get back to you and let you know what's happening with everything. But in a nutshell, you want to learn about Silas, it's all there.
And I would say one of the overlooked parts of Silas is the connections that you often make with brothers that you've heard about or briefly talked to on one occasion. Now you're starting to see them a little more often. Those same connections can lead down rabbit holes, as Brother McWigan mentioned. They can lead to collaborations or whatever else. So it's unusual because Silas Shepherd isn't limited by geography. It's anyone within the jurisdiction and then some outside. So it really allows for that networking that you might not otherwise see. But on that note, if you're interested in Masonic education, Masonic research, definitely look into Silas Shepherd. I want to thank my guests, Worshipful Brother Jim McQuiggan, Worshipful Brother John Schrader, and Worshipful Brother Napoleon Sneed Janczak. And that leaves me only to say thank you for joining me, Brother Chris Lidke, and the entire Further Light team, and in your quest to find more light in Masonry.
Are you interested in learning more about Freemasonry in Wisconsin? Visit wisconsinmasons.org to learn more about Masonry and access further educational content and more light. Once again, that address is wimasons.org. Any questions, comments, or suggestions, please email us at education@wisconsinmasons.org. And thank you for listening.